welcome back to my channel. It's Jasmine. This is part of my imagination, and today I'm going to be doing my February wrap-up. I read a total of 27 books, so this might be a pretty long video. I'm going to try to make it as short as I can. I'm not going to talk about every single book. I'm just going to scan over some of the books that I read, give you the ratings. I participated in Blackathon, VaLITines, and the Booktube games. So I'm not going to go over all the challenges that I did, but for Blackathon, I completed 5 out of the 6. I can't really remember what the challenges were. I know one of them was like, read a book by a black author, read a book that involves a romance between either a black person and LGBTQ or things like that, disability or stuff like that. And then the Poet X was the challenge book to read. And then the only one I didn't make for sure was the spoken word, because I completely forgot about it because it wasn't even an actual book. It was more of the video. So I didn't complete that one. The next, I completed 12 of the challenges out of 25 for VaLITines. There were some that I just didn't have books for, and I just wasn't going to go buy any new books for the challenges. But I did complete 12 of the 25 challenges from VaLITines. And for the Booktube games, the only one that I didn't do was, so there were only 4 challenges. One was read the group book, read in a place that you normally shouldn't be reading for 5 minutes, 24-hour readathon, and the scavenger hunt. I didn't do the scavenger hunt simply because I wasn't really active on social media for the last week, so I never was able to find the scavenger hunt, and honestly I completely forgot about it. Okay, so the first 2 books that I have are a poetry collection by Shel Silverstein, and that is Where the Sidewalk Ends and Light in the Attic. So I read these 2. I did read these for the page count. I said that in the beginning. Yeah, so I read these, and that's pretty much it. The next 2 books that I have is the big book of Berenstain Bears, the beginner books, and I read both of these books again for the page counts. Because I think they both each were like 200 pages. Yeah, this one's 252 pages. So I did read these for the Booktube games. I actually did not read these to the girls. I read them for the page count. Okay, and the last Dr. Seuss book, and not the last poem book, but the last Dr. Seuss book that I read is A Hatful of Seuss. And these are 5 favorite Dr. Seuss stories. Alright, the next book that I have is Something Beautiful by Sharon Dennis Wyatt. This is a children's book, and I got it for the cover, and I got it for my girls. And this was a book about basically, she went around asking everybody what they had that was beautiful. And at the end, the mom basically tells her that she has her because she's beautiful. The next book that I have is How Long Is This Is a Piece of String, written by Kirsten Atkins. It's like 5 pages. Yeah, I read this to the girls. It was on Goodreads, so I added it to the page count. It was like maybe 10 pages. So yeah. The next book that I have is Joshua's Masai Mask by Dakari Haru. I hope I'm saying that right. I really do. Yeah, this book is basically about his uncle gives him this mask, but he wants to be like the other kid. There's like 2 kids in his class that are really cool, and he kind of wants to be like him, and he doesn't want to play the African instrument that his uncle gave him. So he ends up taking this mask, and the mask will turn him into whoever he wants. So he asks to be turned into the popular kid, and obviously he realizes that he should just be himself and all this other stuff, and it was actually a pretty good book. Next, if you weren't here for my video for kicking off the Booktube games, I did read this to the girls, I Am Enough. I gave it 5 stars. Fabulous book. If you have children, pick it up because it's a really good book for them. It's really simple. It's not like complex. It's just everyone accepting everyone for who they are and being great, essentially. The next book I have is Out of Wonders, Poems Celebrating Poets by Kwame Alexander. This is a collection of poems basically celebrating other poets across like different centuries and across the world. Maya Angelou, Billy Collins, E. Cummings, Emily Dickinson, let's see, some other ones. old century songs. Basically, they wrote the poems in the styles that the poets wrote in, celebrating them. The next book I picked up is Rosa, and this is by Nikki, Giovanni. Yeah, so this is about Rosa Parks. Obviously, this is fitting for Black History Month. But yeah, this is about Rosa Parks and how she didn't give up her seat on the bus, and it just goes in explaining what happened. And it's put in simple terms for children. Like, this is actually a children's book. So I thought it was really good. I thought it explained it perfectly so that my kids could understand it, even though I didn't read. So I didn't read any of these books to my kids besides the I Am Enough. Like, that was the only one that I read to my kids. What I have is Can I Touch Your Hair? Poems of Race, Mistakes, and Friendship by Irene Latham and Charles Watser, Sean Qualls, and Selena Alco. I gave this book 5 stars. I did not read this to my kids just because I wanted to see what it was about before I read it to them. And this dives into basically stereotypes between whites and blacks. So it's about a black boy and a white little girl, and how they were never friends before and they didn't really connect with each other. And then it goes in throughout with using poems about how they build a friendship based off of the teacher has them doing a writing assignment together. So, and that's how they grow, and it just kind of uses their growth throughout the school days on stereotypes between both races and things like that. So the next book I picked up is The First Part Last by Angela Johnson. This is a teen book. It's basically middle grade, and it revolves around a boy named Bobby who has a newborn daughter. And it goes back and forth between when his girlfriend was pregnant into the future of him raising his daughter and having to change and realizing that he can't go out and do the old things that he was doing and things like that. I didn't really see the ending coming. I kind of just like made my own assumptions about it, and it kind of just like went left. It wasn't bad, it just, I didn't see it coming, and I kind of didn't really understand how the author came to that conclusion. But I mean, it was still really good. It wasn't anything bad, but I'm not going to tell you because obviously it would spoil the book. But if you're smarter than me, you might realize what's going on anyways. But yeah, this was a good book. I think I gave it 3 stars. It was enjoyable. It wasn't my favorite book, but it was a really teaching lesson, and it bring into a perspective that you normally don't see, which is being a single teenage father. I don't think I've ever read about that or even seen about it in a positive light. So I would highly recommend this simply for the representation of a single teenage dad. So yeah. Okay, the next book I picked up was Zeely by Veronica Hamilton, and I gave this book 3 stars. It was kind of just a story about 2 siblings that went to visit their uncle down, I can't remember where it was. This was like one of the second or third books that I read, so obviously between 27 books I'm not going to remember. But this book was essentially about this girl being not really obsessed, but she kind of attached herself to this girl named Zeely, and she finds this old magazine about this tribe in Africa, and Zeely looks just like the people from that tribe. So she is like telling everyone that she's a queen and all this stuff, and then she finally has a conversation. But the reason why I gave this book 3 stars is because the girl is really mean. Like, she was unnecessarily mean. And I have 4 sisters, and I understand siblings and things like that, but she just like did things that were, I was like, unnecessarily mean. Like, there was one where they were sleeping outside, and then she talked about how like the night people were gonna come take her brother and all this other like, I don't know, it kind of was just like she was just mean for no reason. And then she like changed their name and he gave him this like stupid name, but like essentially it was just like a story. Like, it was a cute little story of a girl seeing a black woman and appreciating that black woman for the beauty and the quality that she has. Alright, and the last middle grade that I picked up was a series of Fortunate Events, The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket. I am doing a reread of the series of Unfortunate Events. So I picked up the first one. I'm way behind, but I'll catch up. They're really short. Although this really did take me a long time to read, and I think it's because I read this at roughly around the end of like February, so I kind of was like drained out from reading all these books. So yeah, I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. Okay, and now I'm gonna get into the graphic novels or comic books that I read, and the first 2 I read was Juke Joint 1 and 2. I don't know if the glare is going to glare it, but yeah. So these comic books are basically about this lady that owns a juke joint, basically, where people come and party and you're not allowed to touch anyone without consent and things like that, and you basically go in there and be yourself, and if you break those rules, these girls, I don't know what happened to, so basically they died because of like sexual assault or abuse from a man, and then somehow this lady has some type of magic and she brings them back to life to seek vengeance. So now when men do it, they just kill them and they fucking eat them, as you can see from the cover. They eat the men or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of what this is about. And I did hear from my from the comic book store that I go to, that I got these from, that they are canceling this. This is definitely for mature audience, and just one, because of like, hello, they're eating dudes for sexual assault and rape and things like that, but like explicit, like, or the first page I opened up and girl's titties were out, and she like ripped this dude's balls off and stuffed them in his mouth. So like, yeah, I don't know if it's true, if they're actually canceling it, but I know the next one doesn't come out until December, or not December, but April. Okay, so the next actual comic book that I picked up was the Fantastic Four. This is a variant edition. I actually bought this on sale for Emerald Cities. So when you buy your tickets for Emerald Cities, you could buy exclusive editions of things, and I completely forgot that I picked this up. But yeah, I read it. I didn't even know. I completely forgot, but I just read it because it was short, and yeah. Okay, and the next comic graphic novel I picked up was The Divine by Asfar Henku. This is basically about there's a tribe in this old forest. I can't remember where. I think I want to say like Vietnam or something. Yeah, I think it's Vietnam. So there's this tribe in Vietnam that has these special powers, and there's this boy that has these powers, and there's this dragon that lives in this mountain, and there's Americans that are obviously over there trying to take the land and profit off of the war and things like that. And yeah, it just follows this one American dude realizing that he couldn't leave the children, because that's what they were children, and he tried to help them and things like that. But I mean, it was alright. The artwork in it was okay. Everything happened really quickly. I don't know if this is even like, I don't know if there's more to this series, but like, it kind of leaves you off on a cliffhanger, but like, it also told a story from start to finish. So yeah, I think I gave this like 3 stars. I don't know, it was alright. I enjoyed it. Alright, the next graphic novel I picked up was March, book 1 by John Lewis, and this is about John Lewis, the congressman. And this just goes, there's 3, I have 3 of them, so I don't know if there's only 3, but I do have 3 of them. I only read this one, and basically it follows him from the time that he was young and talking about how he was raised during the segregation and Jim Crow and things like that, and then going through the civil rights, meeting Martin Luther King. I didn't know these things about John Lewis, and it was just educational in a graphic novel form, and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 5 stars. how do you really not, like, this is basically nonfiction, so how do you rate nonfiction? Like, yeah. Okay, and obviously the next one I picked up was Saga Volume 1 by Brian Vaughan and Fiona Staples. Yeah, this is about 2 different races. You have like the Horns and the Fairy, I don't really know their names, and the Winged or whatever, and they're fighting against each other. They're sworn enemies, and then obviously this is following a romance between 2 of those same races falling in love and having a baby, and now their armies are coming after them because they did the fucking worst thing that they could do, and that's fall in love. So yeah, and this is told in the perspective of the baby. So I really enjoyed the first volume. It is definitely for a mature audience. There's nudity in there, there's killing, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Okay, so I did actually forget one children's book, and it's because I don't have the book. I read it at the bookstore, and I want to believe it's called Congo Freedom. I'll have a picture. I never remember where I post my pictures, but I'll post a picture up so you can see it. And this book, honestly, I can't even remember what it was about because I read it in the beginning of February, so I actually don't remember. But I did read this book. I want to say I gave it like 4 stars. Yeah, it was really good. It was an okay book. Obviously not as great because I can't remember what it was about, but I don't think that is on the book. I think it's more on I read so many books that everything is just jumbled together. So yes. Okay, and the next book that I read, these are actually books that I did read, no more graphic novels or things like that. I did read A Game of Thrones. I listened to the audiobook while reading this, so I did both. Excuse me. I gave this book 5 stars. I've already watched the series, so I already know what's going on. I know a lot of people had problems. I know a lot of people have problems keeping up with so many different characters and so many different point of views. And I think what helped is the fact that I already watched the show. So even if I didn't like really remember a character, I could put a face to that person. And sometimes the name still got jumbled up, but for the majority and the most part, I followed along pretty well. I really enjoyed it. The audiobook was kind of, it was alright. It helped me get through some of the sections that kind of were like, it was a little dull, I didn't really like. But other than that, yes. That I read was Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I gave this book 4 stars? 5. No, I gave this book 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't like this book or believe that there's nothing that really went on in this book. But this book is basically about superheroes and villains. And honestly, you can't really tell who the superheroes are and who the villains are. Granted, yes, the book says, hey, these people are the renegades. The renegades are the superheroes. But you're looking at it the perspective from the villain's point of view. And obviously you can sympathize with her and you understand where she's coming from and the dream that she has and things like that. So in that aspect, when people say, okay, it's about superheroes and there was no superhero or actions, it's not about superheroes fighting. It's about a girl whose family was killed when she was younger and she's seeking revenge from the superheroes gang. It's not actually about like a comic book superhero and we're going to be doing all this fighting and all that. She infiltrated a system and things like that, and I'm kind of spoiling by telling you that, but not really. Yes, but I enjoyed this book. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and I plan on picking up the second one. I already have it, but I do plan on reading it soon. Alright, and the next book that I picked up was Dread Nation by Justina Ireland, and I gave this book 5 stars. I have not really that I've heard mixed reviews about it. I haven't heard a lot about it, and some people really enjoyed it, and I haven't really heard anything about it. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Like I said, I gave it 5 stars. This book is basically set in slavery days, and this girl, I can't remember any of these characters' names, and I'm sorry because, like I said, but this girl goes to a school for black girls that are learning to kill zombies, essentially. That's what they are. So, civilization goes to shit during the Civil War, and people started turning into zombies. So they decided that they were going to send the Native Americans and the black girls to these schools to teach them how to fight and to kill these zombies. And then white people would hire them, or they would buy them to be basically their bodyguards. Now, there was one review that I did see when they said that they thought that this book was about black people wanting to serve white people. And that is like the opposite of what this is about. She gets forced to go to a school, so she succeeds at that school because all she wants to do is go back home and live with her mom and things like that. So, yeah, I love the characters in this book. I love the relationship that was built up between two characters. Their friendship was fantastic. I love the main character. She is that strong woman that refuses to fucking back down. And there are some touchy subjects in here. Not really touchy subjects, but she does get, well, I can't tell you that, but there's slave stuff in here, to put that. And there's also speaking on passing. And obviously there's two characters in here. I won't tell you the spoilers. Well, I won't tell you one of the spoilers. But the girls that she goes to school with, that is the relationship that I love. It was a hate to love friendship. And that girl is passing. So she can be passed as white, but she's black. So it does touch on passing, and it talks about, you get the perspective of the person that has to pass, and she honestly hates it and things like that. But yeah, I won't, whatever, I'm getting too much into this review. I gave it 5 stars. I really recommend it. Alright, and the next book that I picked up was Well-Read Black Girl by, this was edited by Glory Edom. And it is stories, from other writers, authors, editors, publishers, things like that. And these are all black women. And they are, some of them were stories about how most of them, majority of them were stories about how they first seen themselves in a book, or a book that touched them and changed their life. And honestly, I related to probably all of them. I did. I'm pretty sure I pulled something from each one of these women's stories, and I loved reading them. I loved reading how they used seeing themselves represented in a book and how much it changed their life, and just having that feeling, which is why we stress representation so much. And this book, regardless if you're black or whatever you are, I feel like everyone should read this, because it puts it into perspective that you're understanding, hey, these pivoted points and these things in this book made me see myself in it, and it told me that I can do whatever, and I can see myself doing everything, even if people tell me that I can't. So I really recommend this to everyone. Like I said, I gave every one of these stories 5 stars. There wasn't a story in there that I couldn't pick up. And then the great thing about this is, because in each section there's some that are feminism and so not social justice warriors, but things like that that pertain to that. And each section talks about different recommendation books. So this is a fabulous book that recommends books from either black authors or have people that are black being represented in those books. So I highly, highly recommend this book. Right. And now, the last book that I read, and my favorite book out of all of the books that I read for the month of February, was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This book made me cry at least twice. This book is so amazing. This is a poem, and it is about Zayamara. I'm not saying her name right, and I actually listened to the audiobook. So I listened to the audiobook and read along at the same exact time. I finished this in one sitting. Like, this book is so amazing, and I can't understand how people gave this book 1 star. I can't understand, because even if you didn't like the story, even if you didn't like the overly religious parts of this story, there's something to be taken out of it. Her brother is something to be taken out of. Her body image, being body shamed, being catcalled, so many different things. You're having a parent that is in your home but being absent, having an overbearing parent, not having that freedom, not being able to have the freedom of going after your hobbies and the things that you love because somebody else wants you to do something else. There's absolutely everything in this book for everyone. Like, there's one thing in this book that you can say I can relate to. There's not one thing in here that you shouldn't be able to relate to, which is why I can't understand how someone gave this 1 stars. But everyone likes what they like. I love this book, and this was like the number 1. This was on people's number 1 or favorites, top 5 favorites of all last year. So I'm behind the curve, but I finally picked it up. I fucking love this book, and everyone should freaking read this book. Like, you guys need to read this book because it was so good. But I didn't even tell you what this book was about. But it's based Zayamara. She's Spanish. She's Dominican, and is she? Yeah, I want to say she's Dominican. She's some sort of Spanish, and I'm sorry that I can't remember, even though I just capped for this book and said you need to fucking read it. But yes, it's about her and how she is battling between being religious, like her mother wants her to be, and wanting to pursue. She's going through hormones and all this stuff with finally seeing boys attractive, and she's trying to fit in with her body because obviously she's a curvy girl that can't really hide any of her curves or her voluptuous chest and things like that, and then not being able to pursue her hobby, her passion of poetry, and not being able to participate in it. So it just follows her. It's like a normal coming of age, and the relationships that she has, just everything in this book was perfection. And that's it. You just read the book. Alright, and that is the last of the books that I read, unless I'm forgetting, but who knows. I read 27 books this month. That was a total of 3,604 pages. That is all for this video. I will have all these books linked down, not linked, but I'll have them down in the description box if you want to pick them up. And yeah, just let me know if you read any of these books, if you enjoyed any of the readathons that we had going on for the month. And that's all that I have for you guys. Make sure to like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe if you want to. If you didn't like this video, then I don't know, I'm just too tired to come up with a sarcastic fucking comeback. So hey.